I'm going to find out the reason why they sent this in. Did they send it in because they don't have anything at all in place? Did they send it in because maybe they have some, but it's not quite enough? And then I want to make sure that they understand it's not about the amount of insurance. A lot of people come in, they say, well, how much is this or how much is that? And really what I want to teach people is that this is a piece of paper and a promise until you leave this planet. And so we got to get something that's affordable, something that's not going to change your lifestyle, something that you can keep, because whether you live 6 days, 6 years, or 60 years, Rose needs that peace of mind that she's going to have this when you pass.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. And today we're in studio with a good friend of mine, longtime friend, repeat guest. And today we're talking about the fundamentals of final expense telesales and what makes it work. If you're getting into the life business, you need to know this. We're going to be diving into some secrets today with a guy who's figuring it out at a high level with my good friend, Michael Hall of Trustworthy Financial out of Indianapolis, Indiana. Welcome back to the podcast, man.
Man, excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Mike, for the people that maybe have not seen your previous episode, this is your first time. The last time we were remote. This time we're in Louisville, Kentucky, the home of bourbon, horse races, my family, and all things wonderful. And Adam, of course, also lives here, so that's a win. You get to hang out with Adam. For those of you that have maybe did not see the previous episode, why don't we give a little bio, your background, and how we got to where you started and where you are now?
Sure. Yeah. Well, first of all, I was raised in Baltimore, Maryland. My father was a pastor. And I saw the way, as I was growing up, I saw the way he was able to serve people, make a difference in their life. I've never wanted to be a pastor, but I wanted to have that kind of influence on people. I started as a volunteer fireman when I was a teenager. I fell in love with that because I could make a difference for people, but I didn't need to directly engage them, being an introvert. Loved what I did. Best job in the world. I was also a Marine. Went to Iraq, came home, ended up with some lung issues. I ended up having to take a medical retirement from the fire department after 10 years. Roger, I'm a guy, I had no self-confidence. I barely graduated high school. I had no desire to go to college, but I wanted to live a better lifestyle. Dabbled in a little bit of network marketing, which got me into reading, got me understanding that if I change the way that I think, I can change my decisions, which will change my life, my results. And that led me to the insurance business. Somebody told me that they had people that were making about $100,000 a year selling life insurance. And my thinking was so broken that I said, that's for other people. It's not for me.
Did you think like that was too much? Like that's not possible for you?
Well, I was making $65,000 a year, and I thought if I could ever get to $100,000, my life would be forever changed. Like maybe in the next 10 years, I might be able to reach that. That's where my thinking was.
Like it seemed like that was a really far away goal.
I remember when I went to my very first conference and they paraded all these people across the stage making that kind of money. I thought one day maybe if I'm good enough.
Oh man,
completely out of my reach, right? So I was approached about selling life insurance, said thank you, but no thank you. Another friend of mine that I had a lot of respect for built a large real estate business. He was getting involved. He asked me to take a look at it. I thought that I would save face. I thought, this guy sees something in me that I don't see. Let me show up and say thank you, but no thank you. Well, I get there, and the guy starts writing all these numbers on the board, and I'm thinking like, come on, man. Can't you just be a straight shooter? Like, don't fluff the numbers. And as I'm sitting there thinking, I'm thinking, okay, you jerk. You're the one without the opportunity. You're the one that's broke. Like this guy, he's either a good liar or he's the real deal. He's dressed sharp and he's got a nice car. So I thought, let me prove him wrong. Went and got my license in August of 11. Worked part-time from September to the end of the year, made about $30,000, just enough to prove to myself I could do it. Well, I was running scared. I'll talk about that in a second. My first full year, I started in 2012. I was able to do $250,000 my first year. And this is coming from a guy that thought that $100,000 was way too far off. I think part of the reason I did that, there's a book called Question-Based Selling. And in that book, there's a chapter that talks about German Shepherds and gold medals. It says people are either running after something, money, accolades, recognition, or they're running from something. I was running from something. I think running from something in most cases is more powerful because if you're running after something, it's just too easy to give up. You can say, well, things really aren't that bad. But for me, I love my dad to death. I just didn't want to end up like him financially. And I wanted to be able to teach my girls there was a different way to do it. And I wanted to try something. I love people, and I wanted to try something challenging. So got in. It's been a journey. I've been in for 13 years now. What was your next question?
You got a great agency growing in Indianapolis, Trustworthy Financial.
Yes.
You got a great team going, and your focus now is on...
Well, right now we're doing telesales final expense. So when I first got started in the business 13 years ago, we were face-to-face final expense.
Yeah.
We would travel 7, 8, 9 hours away, groups of 3 to 5 people. We'd be showing up at the door with the little card, hey, Miss Betty, I'm here, right? And then we'd have the wear and tear on our cars. We'd have to sleep in the nasty hotel rooms. We got the food that's not great for our body.
Nasty. You chose the nasty.
Well, I was broke and breaking into the business and trying to figure it out.
I'm glad you were breaking into houses.
Well, and then, so I did that for about 5 or 6 years. And then I transitioned into face-to-face mortgage protection. COVID hit. We transitioned into virtual mortgage protection over video. This last year, I've taken on learning how to do telesales final expense, completely out of my wheelhouse. But we're having a ton of fun. You guys have been an incredible help with the training and the structure and the resources you've provided us. But we're having a lot of fun. Who would have thought that you could successfully sell final expense over the phone, not have the wear and tear in your car, not have the nights away from the house, not be missing the family? But no, I'll tell you, we've been working really hard the last couple of months. We have built an incredible culture. I'm so blessed. We've attracted some incredible people on our team, and I'm really excited about what's going to happen in 2025 with us.
Why do you think it's different selling final expense to seniors who have a clear need over the phone different than face-to-face? How is that different?
Well, I think it's a little harder to connect. You know, when you're there with somebody, you've got body language. You can look at what's around the room. There's other ways to connect. It's a little bit harder for them to get rid of you, right? Like once you're in there, you've got a little bit more. It's so easy on the phone for them just to hang up. So you've got to be able to be good enough to build that trust early enough to keep them from hanging up on you. And then you've got to make up for the lack of different communication styles that you would have face-to-face.
So what do you, like in your sequencing now, you got people that dial, you're working leads, right?
Right.
Digital leads for the most part,
That's
I'm
right.
assuming. Yeah.
All digital.
And you've got a turnkey CRM, lead automation. I want to talk about how the leads flow in. We'll talk about that in a minute. So basically the system and the infrastructure is there. Now it's getting into the sequencing of how that call goes and what's the most important part. And what I want our listeners and our viewers to get today from this session with you, because I love how when you take hold of something, you start digesting it, you own it, and then you teach it. Like you teach almost while you're learning. That's the best thing. Like someone who's digesting information fast are some of the best teachers. And I see that with your team. I mean, these guys are hitting it out of the park. They're doing phenomenal. And so if I say to you, like, what are some of the most important parts of making an effective presentation or being an effective life insurance agent over the phone? What are some of those keys to you? What are some of the key variables?
Thing is you got to build trust right away. You got to make sure that they're not going to hang up the phone with you, right? And then after that, you got to get into the belief. I like to start out after I confirm all their information, and now we're ready to get into the call. I like to share with them why I'm doing this business. And the way that I do that, I share a little bit of emotion. I share about a story that I had with me being a firefighter. And then I ask them what got them thinking about final expenses. And that allows them to lower their walls because I went first. I was vulnerable first. Now they're able to share. I think the heart of the sale is right there in this area where we're identifying, addressing, and raising the stakes. We're finding out who it is that's going to be responsible when they pass away, what is their name, Why is it important to them? But really what the key is what the mistake that most agents make is they would say, Roger, why is it important to you to have something in place for Rose? Well, because I'm getting older and I need to look at it. Okay, great. And then they're moving on, right? Well, I want to dive in a little bit deeper because we live in such a fast-paced society. We never slow down and take inventory of what we have, where we're at. I mean, if you think about it, I don't know that I would if I wasn't in this business, right? Like if I were to think today, okay, well, if I passed away, how's that going to leave my family? What would that really do? And so all I'm trying to do, I don't want to sell anything to anybody. I want to figure out who is it that you care about? What would that look like if, God forbid, you left the planet today and tomorrow Rose is down at the funeral home and they're looking for money? Other than being emotionally distraught, what is that going to look like for her financially? Where is she going to get that money from? Well, she's going to figure it out. Right? Most agents would say, oh, okay, she's going to figure it out, and then they're going to move on. I want to dive deeper. Well, what does that look like? You're dead. Figure it out now. Well, they're going to have to borrow money. Well, who are they going to borrow it from? Well, from family. Well, what family? Well, do they have money to do that? Do they have a family of their own? Is this going to affect their retirement? Is it going to affect them taking care of their kids? Right? I want to get them thinking. This is a thinking man's game. I want them to picture themselves laying in the casket with their family looking over them, and how did I leave them? It's not about leaving them wealthy. It's about not leaving them a bill. Life is hard, and I'm just trying to figure out who cares enough that they want to take that burden off of their family, and then I'm going to show them how to do it.
Are you ready to launch your insurance career? Excel Solutions is your go-to leader in life, accident, and health insurance pre-license training. Their cutting-edge e-learning platform is packed with rich content. Think interactive assessments, engaging videos, and customized learning paths, all tailored to your learning style. Being students ourselves, we've trusted Excel now for years to deliver top-notch training, offering high pass rates. Their streamlined prep review courses and the exam simulator are really your secret weapons to nailing the state exam the very first time. Now, you thought it couldn't get any better. Well, it just did. Life Insurance Academy listeners, you receive an epic 50% discount, reducing the regular course fee from $199 to only $99. So, all you have to do is use partner code LIA at liapodcast.org/Excel. Now, Excel spells XCEL. So don't think about it any longer. Dive headfirst into your insurance career with Excel Solutions' premier pre-license training with that exclusive 50% discount just for you. Get the code, get licensed, and excel in your insurance career. When we say the stakes, and you dive into that, what's generally the responses that you're getting? Because we get our new agents, they're trying to figure this out, and just like you said, they'll say, why did you request information on this? They'll say, well, I don't have any coverage. My brother passed away, he didn't have any coverage, or he had a good funeral, and I realized I don't have any coverage and I need some. And most agents will say, well, okay, that's great. So tell me about your health. And they move on, right? They move on to the health. I know you said they're moving on, right? But we talked about three things right there: identify, address, and raise the stakes.
Right. So first we got
for the new agent, they're just addressing it,
right?
They're just addressing it,
right.
and you may be slightly identifying it.
Maybe.
Or, they're identifying it. Sorry, they're identifying it, and then they're slightly addressing it, right? They just touch on a little bit, and okay, or acknowledge, and then they move on. But they're not really addressing it, and they're certainly not raising the stakes.
I think part of the reason, Roger, I think agents are afraid to be vulnerable and become uncomfortable. What I've learned is the more that I can lean in, the more uncomfortable I can get. I've got to feel the emotion so that I can transfer the emotion. So the more vulnerable I can get, the more vulnerable the client's going to get. But what you were just talking about, if somebody were to pass away, I'm going to ask some follow-up questions on that. Well, did they have any life insurance? How did that leave their family? What was that experience like? What would you like that experience to look like? So I'm going to dig in on that prior experience a little bit and see, how was that? Good or bad? How was it? And how would you like that to look? Oh, by the way, when you pass away, who is it that's going to be responsible for yours? And then just kind of flow right into it.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you're giving me the answers, and I know that's not how you speak to the client, because if you rapid fire a client like that with a series of questions, you're going to get hung up on, right? And we talk about tone and how tone plays into those questions, right?
LSD.
And so what's LSD?
Low, slow, deliberate.
There you go. LSD.
I'm going to get in. I'm going to verify the information. But when I get to the stakes, Roger, something happens to you. Who is it that's responsible for taking care of your final expenses? Maybe your wife. What's her name? It's Rose. Roger, why is it so important for you to have something in place for Rose? I want to lower my voice and I want to pull you in. I want you leaning in to listen to me because this is important and I want you to pay attention to it.
This is good stuff right here.
I want you to pay attention to it because this is the heart of the sale, because we're not making a sale. This is the heart of the presentation, because it's just what we're doing right here is we're just identifying, is this important to you? Is it important enough to take action if we're able to find what you're looking for and it's affordable?
And you're being a real life human.
That's it. You got to be a human. You got to
And you're
connect.
caring about somebody.
You can't try to get a sale. You gotta love the people, and you got to really be looking for a solution, not that fits you, but really what's best for them.
LSD. So identify, address, and raise the stakes. But when we get into this area, because we're finding out what their internal need is, we're going to go LSD, low, slow, and deliberate.
Right.
And that's being very intentional, slowing the pace, lowering your tone, lowering the volume even a little bit.
Definitely. I definitely lower the volume.
And people listen, they pay attention even more.
It's funny, Roger. Actually, when I get to that point, I physically lean in. They can't see me because I'm on the phone, but I physically lean in and I lower my voice, and I change my whole body composure when I get to that spot.
And what is the response that you're getting when you do that? What kind of from the people who have a maybe a little reluctant when you start, when you're in this place with them and you can get into a low, slow, and deliberate conversation, what's usually the response that you're eliciting there?
Well, usually people are opening up to me, but I think it's because I'm being vulnerable in the beginning. Like, I'll share my belief statement, and what I'll say is, Roger, I've been doing this for 13 years. And before I started doing this, I was a firefighter and a paramedic, and I was also a Marine. I've seen a lot of loss in my time. But there was this one particular Christmas morning, Roger, where we had a house fire in East Baltimore. There were 5 children that didn't make it out of that house that day. I couldn't imagine grieving the loss of 5 kids. The parents didn't have any life insurance. They were able to bury them. They had to go get a GoFundMe. They had to borrow money. But I just couldn't imagine going through that. So what my goal is today, Roger, is to help as many people like you as I can get the finances out of the way so that when you have your last day on this planet, your family is not brought to their knees financially. Roger, what was it that got you thinking about final expenses? And I think that kind of lowers the wall and tees it up. Yeah. And then most people are just like, well, sometimes they'll say, well, I'm getting older. I just need to figure it out. And then sometimes they'll just dive right into it and they'll say, well, I had an experience. My mom passed and she didn't have any life insurance. And we had to split the bill between the 3 of us. And we had to come up with $2,000-$3,000 a piece. And we're still paying on that, or we didn't have that. And then, so I'll just dive in a little bit deeper on how that makes them feel. And is that really what they want to do?
And when they start giving you that information about why, what does that do for you? I mean, mentally, through your because this is an exercise in communication, right? I mean, we're mastering our craft here. We're learning how to talk to people over the phone. They can't see your face.
That's right.
You don't have the benefit of body language or the environment. You can't see the environment. They're not on a Zoom with you. You're just over the phone.
You're a stranger. Yeah.
The good old phone. You're a stranger. 15 minutes ago, they didn't know you were calling. And now you're having a meaningful conversation with them, maybe for the first time in their life about this.
Yeah.
And they've never had this conversation before, and you're asking them very uncomfortable questions. But when people start opening up to you, is that green light? Do you green light go right into underwriting then? Or where are you going from there? Or are you validating? Are you validating any further information there once they start opening up?
I'm not sure if I understand the question, but I'm going to follow that path until they've got a very clear understanding of what would happen if they were to pass away today. I want to make sure that I don't want to rush it. I don't want to rush that part. I wanted to make sure that they know that whether they do business with me today or not, that if God took them off the planet today, this is what their family's this is the situation they're going to be in.
Yeah. The reason I'm asking the question, Mike, is because a lot of new agents, they just get like a little tiny bit and they want to go right to pricing. The goal is to get to the quotes.
Yeah.
Right? Because they get nervous. They're trying to follow a script. They're trying to remember the words on the page. And they stop being a human and they're become transactional and they're trying to say words that they don't necessarily know.
Right.
So the reason why I'm saying, because it sounds like you're having a very meaningful conversation with somebody. Like, what is your segue then into the rest of the presentation? Do you then do you set expectations for what you're going to do next based on what they're telling you? How do you set those expectations? And then how do you go from there identifying what their need is and having them validate it to, okay, here's what we're going to do next then to try to help you solve that. So what I was looking for is, what is your transition to that next stage from there?
Well, once we get all the way through that and we feel like we've done a good job and we've made that clear, then I'm just going to ask Roger if I can find you what you're looking, if I can, find you something that's going to give you peace of mind, something that you're able to qualify for. But Roger, most importantly, something that's affordable. It's got to be affordable. I'm assuming you're at least ready to apply today to see if we can get you approved. Is that right? And I'll let them know that, look, we're not looking to take any money today. We're not looking to have you buy anything. We're just looking to see if we can get you approved. And then when they say yes to that, then I'm going to walk them through an education piece. I'm going to make sure that they understand it. I'm going to make sure that they understand the difference between accidental, term, and whole life insurance. I'm going to find out the reason why they sent this in. Did they send it in because they don't have anything at all in place? Did they send it in because maybe they have some, but it's not quite enough? Are they concerned that is there somebody that lives with them that they're going to lose some income and it's going to not be able to make them move forward financially? Or is all that taken care of and they just love someone quite a bit that they just want to leave them a special gift? So after we finish that emotional piece, now it's just the logical piece. I want to walk through, I want to educate them. I want to make sure they understand what the options are. And then I want to make sure that they understand it's not about the amount of insurance. A lot of people come in, they say, well, how much is this or how much is that? And really what I want to teach people is that this really doesn't mean anything. This is a piece of paper and a promise until you leave this planet. And so we got to get something that's affordable, something that's not going to change your lifestyle, something that you can keep, because whether you live 6 days, 6 years, or 60 years, Rose needs that peace of mind that she's going to have this when you pass. So I'd rather figure out something that's going to be affordable, because some thousands are better than no thousands, right? So maybe someone can only afford $25 or $30. Maybe they can only get $2,500. Well, for a lot of these people, $2,500 is a ton of money. That's that much less money that the family's going to have to come up with. Does that answer your question, or am I talking about something different?
Yeah, no, you're answering. As you're trying to determine affordability, how do you do that? Do you ask them about how much money they make? Do you ask them how much they get in their Social Security? How do you find out about the bank account? Like, there's a few other things there that I'm interested to find out your process on.
When I was brand new, when I was face to face, I used to do that. I used to go through all their expenses. I'd find out what their income was, and I'd find out their major expenses. I don't do that with the telesales. What I do is, and I really don't even ask them how much they make. I go with a premium close, right? And one of the things I was taught a while back was a premium close. And so I'll say, Roger, I deal with all different types of clients every day. Some of my clients have more resources than others. Some can afford quite a bit more insurance, others less. Now, I can't even promise you that we can get you approved for anything. But if I could get you approved for something, would $150 to $200 a month be something in the budget to set aside on a monthly basis for Rose? No, Mike, that's way too much money. That's okay, Roger. This is your budget. Remember, I deal with all kinds of people. What about $100 to $150? Mike, that's still too much money. Roger, if I could get you approved, if I could find something, how much money would you like to set aside on a monthly basis for Rose? Most people are coming back with $80 to $100 in general, sometimes a little bit less.
Yeah. So that's how you back into the affordability and the premium. Yeah. And once you get confirmation on that, are you doing that after you do underwriting, or are you doing that before you do underwriting?
No, I'm doing it before I do. I'm doing it before I do the underwriting.
Yeah. So and then you're getting confirmation that they want to move forward, affordability, and then you're moving through to find out what they can qualify for.
That's right.
And you're doing health and medications.
That's right. We've got a list of health questions we ask them, and then we figure out all the medicines. I'll tell them, Roger, what medicines has your doctor prescribed, even if you have not taken them or gotten them filled?
Yeah.
Because they're going to see all that, and I need to know it. I'll tell them, I'm like the attorney. I need to know everything. The insurance company is like the judge. We're not going to lie to them. We're just going to give them the information that they ask. And when you give me this information, because I work with, because I represent, because I have access to so many companies, it's going to allow me to find the one that's going to be the best fit for you based on your current situation. So I need to know the medicines you take, because maybe you take gabapentin. There's a lot of companies that are going to shut you down just for taking it. Some of our companies are going to ask why you take it and what are you taking it for, and they're not going to hold it against you.
I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of agents that we train in our boot camps, they just think they need to ask what the client's taking. What are you currently taking? And the client will give them 2 or 3 medicines, and then they move on.
Yeah.
Instead of asking the question, what has the doctor prescribed you in the past year or 2, whether you're still taking it or not? The reason I'm asking that is because when they do the prescription check, they're going to see all the medications that you've been prescribed. I just want to know what they're going to see so that I know what to recommend. Because some of those things are going to be more favorable with one company than another. So I don't report your meds. I just want to know what they're going to see so that I can make the best recommendation. And it's interesting.
And a lot of them have multiple uses.
Yeah.
So I tell my agent, I've got an app on my phone. It's an app that a lot of doctors and nurses use. And so I look it up, and it tells me every possibility that a medicine could be used for. But I tell the agents, Google it. Google it until you know it, because there are medicines that could be used for heart failure that maybe are being used for blood pressure, and you need to know the difference.
Yeah.
If that pops up.
Some agents will just ask the health questions, and they don't focus on meds too much. And then they get to the end and they get tripped up and then wonder why, I think thorough underwriting is something that probably has gotten a little bit lax because of technology, like tools like Insurance Toolkits. Like we use Insurance Toolkits for quoting. And for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a quoting software, basically, that you can do underwriting and quoting with. But I think Insurance Toolkits is like a little bit of a crutch.
It can be, yes.
Yeah. And so new agents, instead of learning what the different carriers like and don't like, because each carrier has a preference, they have a tolerance, they have an underwriting, they're trying to hit a certain health age demographic to be profitable in their business model. And they have different underwriting parameters and, these actuaries that determine, where that needs to be. And they vary from company to company. And so I think when a lot of new agents just plug their info in and hoping that the Insurance Toolkit tells them which one to go with, that it's right. When we started, I just got really familiar with 4 or 5 companies. Really familiar. I read their underwriting guides. I looked at all their drug charts. I called their sales desk. I learned about the products. I learned where it fit. And I did a deep dive on 4 or 5 companies. And when you know 4 or 5 companies, you generally know what's going to happen, because now you're familiar with that. You're not relying on a technology piece where you have no idea whether this thing, when it says Transamerica or SBLI or Mutual of Omaha or American Amicable, you don't know which one, right? Based on that, you just see that they all look like they're going to be approved. Now you're picking the cheap one. And you get yourself in trouble sometimes.
So for me personally, and I don't know if you're going to agree with this or not, but I personally discourage my team from using the Insurance Toolkit, and here's why. They do exactly that. They look at the cheapest price, and they're going to go to, and now they're spreading their business over all different companies. And so we've got a methodical way that we move. Like there's one particular carrier that we lead with first for many reasons. One, it's the simplest for the applicant to sign, and that's a big deal over the phone, because you can lose a lot of sales if you're not able to help them get through the technology. Another reason is this main carrier, they're going to ask you about the medicines at the end. So you're going to give them an answer answer on the reason that they take the medicine. But if they get declined, now you have an idea of why they're declined, and then you can have a better idea who to pivot to next. But the other thing is, if you're sharing the love and you're writing 15 different carriers, you got to deal with chargebacks at all those carriers. It's very hard to stay profitable. So we've got 2 or 3 main carriers that we use. We get people contracted with 5 or 6, not to use them, but if a one-off comes up and we need it, then it's like, okay, Roger, go grab this carrier and that product. You're going to need it for this case. But I just keep it very streamlined. We've got one carrier we go to for everything. If they're not a good fit, depending on the health, then we're going to go to another carrier. But I don't want to leave it in their hands because they're always going to go to the cheapest, and then they're not going to be profitable, and then they're going to be out of business.
Why is the cheapest not always the best option?
That's a good question.
Why is the cheapest not always the best option?
Well, because I mean, first of all, we got to find a carrier that we've got a relationship with. We got to find a carrier that's got a good rating. We've got to find a carrier that's gonna have the products that we're looking for. But it's
easy to process.
We want someone that's going to get approved. We want to get someone that's going to. It doesn't matter about price if you're not getting them approved.
Correct.
My biggest thing is I want to get you approved today. Price doesn't matter if you're not approved.
Correct. So don't chase price is what you just heard. There's a lot more, man. I'd love to go deeper. I know I'm just going to tease this for people that are listening. You've now automated a lot of your sales process with leads, CRM, automations for texting and nurturing leads. How's that working out?
Night and day difference. I mean, we were literally getting our leads in on a Google sheet and just blowing them up, just calling and trying to chase them down. And we're spending all of our time finding, not finding the people, having the technology. And look, technology and AI should never replace what people do, but it can add to what you're doing to take off the heavy lifting so you can focus on what's important. So we've got a CRM and we're using some automation that's helping us book the appointments by text, email, and voice. And it's also helping us with reminders. But what it's doing is it's allowing us to spend more time on the phone with clients versus trying to call them and get a hold of them.
Yeah, trying to find them. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a cool thing. All right. So let's summarize. New people. Mike's hit on some key issues here. The number one thing that I liked, Mike, at the beginning is you're establishing trust and your belief with the client about why you do this and earning their trust. And I like what you said. You go first. You share first. You share a personal story about you. You're humanizing the conversation. You're not just somebody there to take an order. You're actually becoming a human with them and you're sharing first before you ask. So trust and belief. Then we hit identify, address, and raise the stakes.
That's right.
And don't settle on just identifying and addressing. We actually got to go there and have that deeper conversation about why it's important to them.
That's right.
And I love what you said next. You said when you get into that emotional part, you go low, slow, and deliberate. LSD, not the drug. Low, slow, and deliberate.
Or the state, lower, slower, Delaware. Not that either.
So LSD, low, slow, and deliberate. I really love that. And then how you be comfortable with your closing process, or identifying price sensitivities. So I like how you identified your price sensitivities and the range of affordability for your client. Because if they can't afford it, there's no point in having it. Even if they apply for it, they can't afford it, they don't keep it. You're going to get a chargeback anyway. So find out the affordability. And then lastly, in your underwriting, very deliberate on not relying just on technology for underwriting, but actually knowing your products. And you're keeping it simple. Why is keeping those things simple for new people paramount to launching them to success?
Well, confused people do nothing, and you've got to know the basics, and you can't learn everything at once. It's like you said, you've got to take 1 or 2 carriers and really learn them. You got to understand what they like, what they don't like, what those questions are. You got to become competent. If you don't sound competent on the phone, they're not going to do business with you.
I love that. All right. I think we hit some good stuff, Adam. We got some good notes. We can even put some recaps up. I like how we're doing that. If you like when we actually put the info up on screen as we're identifying some of these points, can you comment? Yes, I know. If you like giving Adam more work to put our info on screen and that helps you, let us know. Throw a comment in there. We got a great comment. I'm going to give a shout out to a guy who lives in Texas. He said, I'm the guy who's from Africa who still hasn't climbed Kilimanjaro. He commented again. He goes, that was me. You mentioned me again. Now you're mentioning the third time. I don't know your name though, so you got to drop your name in the next comment. And maybe you're doing this. What do you want me to do? Oh, you're going to put his comment here. There you go. So if you got comments for us about anything, or you want to get a hold of Mr. Michael Hall, what's a good way to get a hold of you, my friend? How do they reach you to find out more about Trustworthy and your simple system and the fundamentals of final expense sales?
They could go to getstarted.trustworthy.life and they can schedule a call with one of our partners and we can have a conversation. Getstarted.trustworthy.life.
Life. Look at that. How simple is that? And you're on social?
That's right.
Yeah? How do they find you on
Facebook,
social?
I think it's MA Hall 79 on Facebook. I could be wrong. It might be Michael Hall. I think my Instagram, I'm not very good at my social. I think my Instagram is MA Hall 79 and my Facebook is just Michael Hall.
There you go. Look him up. He's the good looking guy. He's in a blue suit typically. Looks good in blue. Mike, thanks for being on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Can't wait to follow your journey. Hit him up. Guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful to you in your journey of life insurance sales, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Life Insurance Academy podcast.